Hey everyone, welcome back to Casey 3D Sparks. Today we are going to be creating an altar that is going to have some creepy elements to it, so you can use it in a dungeon for when they're coming across some cultists or something like that. I will be adding in a symbol for Orcus because that's what I'm running through right now. So of course when we get to the symbol part, you can either make one for Orcus that I'm going to do or create your own, that kind of thing. So let's dive right in. I will be working in inches, so of course, first things first, you want to go into your scene and make sure that you're working in whatever unit you prefer. I did change my display grid to be 1/4 of an inch, and right now I do want to work with the default cube, but 2 inches is a bit big, but I'm going to go ahead and just size it manually instead of doing it exact. So let's go ahead and dive right into edit mode. We'll just tab into that, and for that, let's go into front non-perspective view and size it down by the Z-axis. I don't want the first step. I'm going to have basically 2 little steps kind of leading up to it. Then size this. How big is that? Still about 3 inches. I want it a little less. Maybe about 2.5 would be good. Oh, look, perfect. Nice. Okay. So we're at 2.5 inches. I want this to be kind of a big altar. I mean, Orcus is a pretty big character. If you don't know him, I would advise looking him up because he's pretty cool demon to work with. Nice. Okay, I like that. So with that first step already built out, we're going to go to wireframe view, deselect everything, and border select the top vertices. We're going to hit E to extrude and just size that in. About there, looks good. We're going to hit E to extrude again to get our second decorative step up. About the same height, could be a little bit shorter. I'm not going to be picky with this. It's going to probably be a little bit crude. Go in, and then we'll actually get the altar table up. About there, looks good. Maybe a little taller. I like that. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have our basic altar built, I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple loops, just really quick, just to help with sculpting. Because to add in some of the details that I want, we are actually going to do sculpt mode really quick. And if you haven't watched my sculpting intro video, I will go over the basic tools. We're not going to do anything super fancy today, so don't worry. I already renamed my object, so I am going to duplicate it as well, because with sculpting I like to make sure I have a backup in case if I get too far and I can't control Z far enough. So I will duplicate my object first, and then we will go into sculpt mode. So all we're really going to do is frame out some basic stones on the bottom and maybe add in some details, because this is just all going to be stone. And then yes, so these bottom steps are going to be like tiles, and then this will be like a large stone block on top is how I'm envisioning it. And then once we get it sculpted out, we're going to model a few more details. So in order to sculpt, whenever you tab into sculpt mode, or just switch into this mode right with this drop down menu, it should automatically come up with this brush. We are only going to use this one today. I'm not going to go over any of the others. Like I said, I do have a sculpting tutorial video on my channel. So for the radius, I'm just going to do 20. This obviously changes the radius of your brush. Strength, we're just going to do half strength today as well. I'm probably not going to mess too much with that. The only other 2 things I'm going to worry about is the dino topology, which I am going to check on. This will actually subdivide the model for us, so we don't have to worry about adding too many loops in. Of course, you can just add in a certain amount of loops if you wanted to have, not to go too crazy with the detail. But since I'm just 3D printing this, I'm not going to be worrying about my triangle count. I'm just going to go ahead and check this. For the symmetry lock, I'm going to do X and Y. I'm not going to do Z. Since we're doing some like grout lines for tiles and stuff, I want to just, do as little as possible. So I'm going to have X and Y selected. So the only other thing you need to know when you're sculpting for this is when you just regularly click, it will actually bring the mesh out. I know it's a little hard to see. Let me bring it out a lot. You can see it starts to build a bump. It's going to undo that, and if you hold Control, it starts to do an indent. So it will, you know, take away from your mesh. So for this, I'm going to be holding Control a lot. Let's just start with this side here. And I'm going to start with this grout line over here. Obviously, I want it to be kind of crude and beat up stones, so I'm going to be very, you know, generic with this and not worry about it being absolutely perfect. If you want a very pristine altar, of course, you can go crazy with these other settings. If you want it to be more crude or whatever you would like, but I'm just gonna do some basic cutouts here and have some fun. I did a little bit more than I thought I was. I went a little crazy with the sculpting tool, which is easy to do. That's why I said before I like to duplicate my mesh. A lot of this that I did on here probably won't show up once I 3D print it, as long as I have these basic grout lines, which I might add another one right here. That is the main point. Nah, I'll just leave it like that, like they're huge stones. D&D, you can get away with being a little unrealistic, right? Yeah, that's the fun of it. Anywho, so now we're going to go back into object mode, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again, hide the other one, and we will add on a subdivision surface modifier to kind of smooth it out a little bit and get rid of some of that actual triangle looking stuff. Yeah, and then it, yeah, just makes it look a little bit nicer, and I'm going to go ahead and just apply it right away. Now, the other details I wanted to add, like I said, I want to make an Orcus symbol, which I will model out separately. We're going to boolean it and make a difference on the top, and we're going to add on some spikes to the corners. So let's go ahead and make the spikes really quick because those are simple. So let's just go into side view real quick, add in a circle. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees and size that down a lot. We'll just model it above the altar for now and worry about the actual sizing once we're done getting this figured out. So we'll go ahead and hit tab. I didn't change any of the vertices or anything like that. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to hit E to extrude and go ahead, have it like that. E to extrude, size it in, because that'll be like the base for the spike coming out of the stone. Oops, thought I hit E. And we'll go ahead and start rotating this and sizing it. Perfect. All right, and then for the base itself, we'll go ahead and E to extrude, size that in, bring it out a little bit, E to extrude, and just face that off. Awesome. So there's our spike. We'll go ahead and apply that. Now obviously it's a little big, but that's okay because we will fix that now. Now of course you don't have to add spikes if you want. You could do straight spikes or you could do some sort of animal horns or bones, or let's see what else is fun. Not sure what else an evil cult might use. That's all that's coming to mind at the moment. But obviously, with whatever cult that you're having your campaign players run through, you can just go crazy with whatever elements that they like to use. There we go. Just to make it look a little bit more like it's a part of the stone itself. Perfect. I like that a lot. Now, one other thing we can do in order to place it on the other three corners easily, we can go ahead, set the origin to the 3D cursor, duplicate the first spike, rotate it. Obviously, we'll have to do a little adjustment in a second. Duplicate it again, rotate it, there, and one last time. Right there. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfect unless you want it to be. All up to you. Awesome. Cool, so there's the altar itself. And now let's go ahead and model our symbol. So what we will do for our symbol is, it's a pretty basic one. It's basically an arrow with a curved end and a circle on it. So I'm going to just start with a plane. Oops, my mouse lets me. Go into top view, and we're just going to pull it up here and model it away from the altar. Let's size that down a lot. Go into edit mode, and we are just going to go ahead and subdivide this once. Go ahead and get rid of these, because what we can do is, since it is the same on each side, we will go ahead and add a mirror modifier. Make sure clipping is on, and bring that in because this will be the shaft of the arrow, and that'll be pretty skinny. And then let's make the arrowhead itself. E to extrude. Whoops. Make sure you turn your proportional editing off so that way you can actually do what you want. Let's make the arrowhead like that, and then extrude the side. Rotate this. Perfect. Grab these two again, E to extrude. Just grab those and make it into a point. Make it as straight as you want. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and grab these, make this a little bit longer. I'm going to E to extrude this, pull this out. I'm actually going to turn clipping off for a second so I can pull this out, because this will actually curve around a little bit, make like a semicircle. Turn that back on so the arrow stays together. And we will also go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier. We're just going to do 1, 2. 2 looks good. Go ahead and select, everything. We're going to extrude it, pull it up so that way, you know, we can stick this into the altar and make a difference with a Boolean modifier. And we will have to go ahead and sharpen most of these edges. Perfect. Okay, that looks great. I'm going to make a duplicate just because that's how I can double check myself later in case if I make a mistake or something. It's much, much easier to back up when I have a duplicate. Go ahead and apply my modifiers. And now, to make the circle that will go over the arrow shaft, we can go ahead and just add in a circle. Pull that up, make it much smaller. We want it to be about that size. Let's just go into edit mode really quick. E to extrude, size that in. about there. Select everything, each extrude, make it about as tall. Oops, it's going to be backwards. We'll match it up to the arrow as best we can. Probably a little easier in wireframe view. Perfect. The top doesn't have to be exact since that part doesn't matter anyway. Now what we can do, I don't think we need to add a subdivision surface modifier to that. I think that's fine as is. We can add a boolean to this. We're going to union them together with the circle, apply. Okay, so here's our symbol. Let's go into top view, can't see it. Oh, that's way too big. I want it about like that, looks good. A little smaller. Bring it up. I don't want it to be that deep. I want it somewhat shallow, but deep enough for it to come out when I 3D print it. So probably about there looks good. Okay, so go ahead, grab our altar. Let's do the spikes first. So what we'll do is do union. We need 4 of them. So 4 of those. I'm going to go ahead and select everything really quickly though. Go to Object, Apply, Rotation, and Scale. Just to make sure everything's, you know, as it should be. We're going to do the spikes. Alright, and before I apply them, go ahead and hide them all. Make sure they all worked out okay. Looks like it did. So we'll go ahead and apply those. And then we'll add one more Boolean modifier. But this one's going to be different. Let's do this one more time. Let it think for a second. This is a very dense mesh now, so it does have a lot to think about. Alright, that is a little deep, but I think for 3D printing I need it pretty exaggerated anyway, so I'm gonna say that's fine. And we're gonna apply it. And there is our altar for an Orcus cult that my players are going to come across in the future. So I hope you guys like this tutorial. Please let me know what you think down below in the comments, and let me know if you have any requests for in the future. And make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time.